Hello and welcome to Firefly Flare, my place to be as weirdly creative as I want to be and a place to hopefully inspire you to do the same. So today I am doing my second entry into my stitch log or stitch by stitch series, and I'm going to be doing the satin stitch and a couple of variations, the outlined and patterned satin stitch. So, well, let's get to it. A satin stitch is very common. It's the filler stitch essentially, so whenever you've got a shape to be filled in, you do satin stitch or some variation thereof. And I've drawn lines, so I've got shapes. My stitches still aren't going to be straight, but there's only so much you can do. So, starting in the middle of your shape, this helps keep the stitches sort of even on both sides as you go, otherwise they sort of tend to go wonky. So if you start in the middle, the sides theoretically should be even. That's the theory. Okay, so now I've filled in that side, come back to the middle and do the other side. Now you can also break it up even more, so halves and then quarter it and then eighth it. Maths was never my strong point. So there you go, that's the basic satin stitch. That's your normal, everyday satin stitch. As you can see, mine's not very neat, but you know, it's just to show you the basics of it. And if you see my lines, well, speaking of, my lines weren't straight, but if you see the lines and every stitch you do is just outside it, then you should turn up even. Whereas I was just going for it and not really paying attention to the lines anyway. Why did I even draw them? I don't know. Anyway, so let's go to the outlined satin stitch. It kind of says it all in the name. You're giving the area that you want to satin stitch an outline. So you can use any kind of stitch for this, really. Well, within reason. You don't want to go overboard because this is going to get covered up. So you can do a stem stitch, back stitch, which is what I'm doing, which is probably the most simple. Doesn't have to be neat, tiny stitches because, as I said, it's going to get covered up. Okay, so now you have the outline, part of the outlined satin stitch. And for someone like me who apparently can't follow a line to save a life, this could be a good option. It's a bit easier to see, so I can better see that that's where the stitch has got to go. This one is also good if you just want that little bit of extra definition to the stitch, because it gives it a little raised edge. Not insanely so, just enough that you'd notice it. So there you go. That's the outline satin stitch. So next is the padded satin stitch. Padded satin stitch is, again, pretty much what it sounds like. You're going to pad out the base by filling in where your stitch is going to go with a running stitch, so that when you satin stitch over it, it's padded. So one thing to note is to do these padding stitches in the opposite direction that you want your satin stitch to go. So because my satin stitch is going up and down, my padding stitches are going across. And it is sort of suggested that you then outline again like you did for this one. So that is just a quick back stitch. So there's the very rough outline plus padding, and you can add in as many stitches in here as you want. You can fill her up or leave some more spaces. So I'm going to leave it at that and do my satin stitch. This time I'm going to divide her up as I fill it in, just to show you something different, and myself. And there we go. You see it's a little more raised than this one, and a lot more than this one. So there you go, that's satin stitch, outline satin stitch, and padded satin stitch. So there we go, my second entry into the stitch log, the satin stitch, padded satin stitch, and outline satin stitch. All very useful everyday stitches that get used a lot anytime you need to fill in something. So good to know, good to have it there. And if this video was helpful to you and your learning of the satin stitch or refreshing, please consider subscribing to this channel, liking and commenting on this video. And I'll see you in the next one. Bye!